Good afternoon, everyone. Mike Banner here for the 100th episode of 62 Who Knew. I cannot believe it's been 100 episodes, and I'd like to say that we have some incredible things happening, parties, balloons, all the incredible, but I'm not saying that. I'd like to say that, but it's just one of our normal shows, but with one of our absolute favorite guests who has been responsible, quite frankly, for a few record amounts of audience growth, because he's actually been with us from our 20th week, I think our 32nd week, our 50th week. This is his fifth or sixth time on the show. So we're going to discuss something that is very 62 Who Knew, very timely and very relevant. And, of course, I am referring to Mr. Colin Castle, the Vice President of Castle Healthcare, which is also a DBA of Home Instead Senior Care, the #1 in-home senior care company in the country. And I want to get him on pretty quickly, but before we do, I want to give a huge thank you to Mr. Stephen Sless, who last week, when I had to take care of some personal matters, was our guest host. He was actually worried, I can't believe that he would do a good job. Not only did he do a great job, we had unbelievable amount of viewership, a staggering topic that has never been discussed before. If you didn't see last week's show, it is all about gray divorce, which is what divorce is being termed for people in their 60s and 70s. And believe it or not, the divorce rate is up in that age bracket. Sad but true. But in that age bracket, divorce is no easy thing. Sometimes it's a second marriage. Sometimes there's his children, her children, their children. There are separate assets going to different places. And Mr. Sless brought on a couple of unbelievable experts to discuss it. So if you didn't see last week's show number 99, hosted by Stephen Sless, please go back and look at that on any one of the platforms that we're on. But again, thank you so much, Stephen. Nothing but love for doing that. So let me give a quick synopsis of what 62 Who Knew is, as I always do every week for our new viewers. And it's going to be a quick synopsis this week because I do want to bring our special guest on. 62 Who Knew is all about the double-edged sword, the mixed blessing, if you would, of longer lifespans. I turned 62 in July, which is, about 8-9 months ago. Now, I have to make plans. I've been making plans for my retirement. I have a very firm mathematical retirement plan, and the way I'm accumulating money and assets, I'm very proud to say I'll be retiring when I'm about 136. But that is the whole point of 62 Who Knew. With people living well into their 90s now, who knew that in your 60s, you still had another 30 years to go? You still had half the time you've been on this planet still to go. In fact, the AMA, the American Medical Association, says if you live to be 62 in this country, you have 50-50 odds of making it into your 90s. Who knew? Now, my father, his father, and his father before them, and all of your parents, when they planned for their retirement, they didn't plan to live another 30 years. But they all had the same questions as us. Do we stop working at 62? Obviously, many of us need to keep working. Should we take our Social Security, or should we defer to a later age? Is it too late to get long-term care insurance? Do we need life insurance? Should we stop our life insurance? Was it a mistake to stop it in our 50s? Are we too old to get it back? What are we going to do about Medicare supplemental policies when we turn 65? What is all this confusion with the new laws of Medicare? Okay, do I need a reverse mortgage? Where should I invest my money? The questions are endless, but they've always been the same for almost every generation, except for my generation. My generation has to try and make their assets last 30 years plus. And with scientific and medical breakthroughs, that's pretty much going to be 35 and 40 years in the very near future. So what 62 Who Knew does is bring on experts like we are today on the topics of long-term care insurance, life insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, Medicare supplemental, health, cruising, in-home care, which is our specialty tonight, gray divorce, financial planning. We have managed to bring on a plethora, I love that word, plethora of experts, because only 1% of this great country can retire in their 60s and still live a quality of life until their 90s. The rest of us, the other 99% of us, we're working. And that's what this show is here to do. And on its 100th episode, with us now averaging more than 80,000 viewers per week, I think it's pretty well accepted that this premise is liked by the masses, because we're growing by leaps and bounds. So again, without any further ado, thank you to all the new people. Thank you for the people that are constant listeners. But John, let us get Mr. Colin Castle up, and there he is. Usually he is here right next to me, but he agreed to do this on an incredible busy day in between coaching children, working, and being the vice president and affiliated with the largest in-home senior care in the country, Home Instead. Colin, thank you so much for doing this the way we're doing it right now.
Anytime, well, Michael, anytime. I'm always a fan of getting on the show and having a talk. I enjoy going back and forth in our conversations. And yeah, if it wasn't for baseball season and some kids, I would definitely enjoy sitting back and seeing the new set, since I've not been able to get there and see it since our host has redone it and
Yes.
Take a peek at it. So it's definitely something I want to do in the near future.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we got a lot to speak about, but let's, the 40-70 rule, which is something that I want to get to in the second half of the show, but you were literally responsible for breaking some viewership records when we brought up this very relevant conversation between parents and children. But before we do that, it has been a little bit. What has the new world of COVID, the January 2021 of COVID, people are getting shots at a record rate. I got my second vaccine this past Saturday, so it's now about 9 days old. Many of my relatives and friends, many of the people that are on the show constantly have gotten both their shots. What has that affected your world of in-home care with all your care people?
Oh, it definitely has affected our industry as a whole. We have communities out there that where we serve seniors that either live still in independent living or in assisted living, not so much in skilled nursing, but where we go on to properties that have all of them. And some, require testing. Some range from testing every week, wow, depending on their infection rate, particularly in that community, all the way to once a month. We now have, clients and their families are starting to ask about if there's any COVID testing regimens going on. Are we requiring testing? Are we requiring the vaccine? So as you can imagine, just in any industry, there's a lot of questions. Unfortunately, there's really not a lot of answers right now. I mean, we do have a COVID testing policy. We've rolled out, at least our franchise has. Our franchise, locally here has done a volunteer COVID vaccination.
Right.
So we've put the information out there. We've encouraged it. Myself and my wife as owners have our vaccines.
Good.
We've probably had the majority of our office staff has. And we're working towards, educating and encouraging all of our care staff to get immunized. Because we do obviously see firsthand what it has done, especially here in Florida, to our long-term care, and seniors, how badly it's really impacted them over the last, 12 to 18 months.
Would in-home care people, I would assume, but I could be wrong, count as those first-line workers that were able to get their shots regardless of age in the beginning?
Yeah. So there was, and again, it was state specific and then county specific. Pinellas County, where we're located, and that's for those who are out there that's looking at Florida, it's that little thumb in Florida. That is Pinellas County. we were included in, and we were always sent emails even when it was offered for, other folks and slots were available. We'd always get emails from the Department of Health going, hey, we have 5 slots available. Would you like those? And of course we were like, yes. Because, once they, set up the vaccines for the day, they have to use them that day.
Exactly.
or they go bad. So they want all the slots and all the shots taken. So they put that out to a lot of folks. But, we've worked really closely with the Department of Health to make sure that we've been respectful of them when they send emails, and they've been really gracious to send us emails when they have open spots as well. So it's been fantastic.
If you had to take a guess, I don't even know if you're keeping track of how much of your staff, has been immunized. Could you take a guess?
I'd say we're a little bit above the average out there. I would say we're close to 50%.
And what would, in your opinion, what would stop somebody from wanting to when they're visiting so many seniors? Is it could be because they're young and they feel they're okay, or what would stop somebody from visiting, the absolute, petri dish of COVID-19 to not want to have a immunization?
I'm not. My personal opinion is I think it's the rhetoric, honestly, that's out there that there isn't, as much as we're trying to get past it, any of the clear answers out there.
Yeah.
My personal is, regardless, I view this as any other immunization that's been available. You have to look at your risk and your exposure. And if you're working in this industry and you're working with seniors, my personal opinion is I think you should have it, simply because it's maybe not you might be okay. You might have a week or 2 or even 3 weeks of discomfort, but unfortunately the seniors that we serve,
that's right,
could be impacted even greater. Maybe even death because of contracting with COVID, or it could cause another system-wide problem, or a heart-related problem, or breathing problem, or exacerbate the current health condition. I don't want to put but you. I know you well enough that you contracting COVID would complicate.
Yes, that would be rough.
Yeah, complicate you very much. So I view that the same way. We don't want to do that to our seniors. So that's why I encourage it. I personally don't want to get involved in the other rhetoric behind it. But I look out that we're here to serve our seniors, but at the same time, we also have to give a good working environment, safe working environment for our caregivers, and a safe environment for our clients. They are trusting us to come into their homes, multiple times a day, all the way to 24 hours a day. The last thing they want is, and I want, and my wife wants, is for us to be the reason for them getting a disease like this in their home.
Well, you and I have talked about this from the first very time we met. Caregivers are just such special people.
They are.
And I always use the same example. I have problems finding a good receptionist. I have problems finding great loan officers. The local restaurant has trouble finding a good cook. How people like yourself find these nothing less than angels. You don't even have to be religious to know that these caregivers are like angels to come in and take care of people. They're just such staggering individuals. It's that it's kind of refreshing to know that there are people still like that out there, because as you and I have discussed before, they're sure as hell not doing it for the money.
No, and unfortunately, COVID has actually exasperated. I think COVID's accelerated a lot of things in a lot of different industries, but COVID's accelerated our industry as well. I mean, there's a tremendous shortage of caregivers going on. So combination of COVID and all of the other struggles that we've seen for the last year, our whole industry is struggling to find those angels. And why we still are lucky that we do find them. We're not finding enough of them right now. So that's across the board.
Yes.
For everyone. I think there's going to be continued struggles as you talk about, the baby boomers are accelerating. So it's really not a great time to have a supply and demand problem right now.
Right, and with our friends at the Weitzman Institute, who are guests, and you've seen them, saying that this average age of getting to 90, 50 can easily be in the hundreds in my lifetime, and I'm no spring chicken. This is no time for a shortage of caregivers. But again, what special people, even the ones now, that are going. Let's talk about for a second, before they had a choice of a vaccine, going in to living facilities. And again, I have a niece that does this in Georgia. And taking her life in her hands, not every day, but 5 times a day, going in to care for people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. It's just
Correct.
Unbelievable people.
It takes a unique person, and I, as I said, my story, my brother and I are differ. My brother was able to, help my grandmother and cross those personal, per se, lines with my grandmother and help her with personal care. Unfortunately, I wasn't with my own mom, so we had a different role. Right. My mom and I's role was different than my brother's and my grandmother's role. But yes, it is a very rewarding situation for a lot of caregivers. And it takes a very unique person to do what they do on a day in and day out basis. If not, our industry wouldn't exist without these great caregivers, home health aides, CNAs, that are able to do this type of work and take care of our seniors. And of course, our seniors wouldn't be able to live independently in their homes without, these wonderful caregivers. So I can't say enough about the folks that offer to take this on as a role and as a job and as a career for any of us in the industry, but especially Home Instead here in Pinellas. It's a huge thank you, because it's a tough job to do what they do every day.
Right. And obviously for privacy issues, but still, and I know you don't do things like this for credit or to have somebody on an internet TV show just give you credit for something, but you're in the process of doing something for a client that you called me with. That their own relatives are just not standing up to, and just going so far above and beyond to make sure that this woman not just has quality of care, but, my God, food on the table. And here you are doing this. I just have so much respect for what for you personally, your wife, and for what your industry does. You saw me looking down before, and I meant no disrespect. I never do that during a show, but it's actually people sending messages to the 62 Who Knew website going, caregivers are the best. Oh my God, they're like living angels. Oh my God. I mean, it's just fantastic.
Yes. And and on that particular, client of ours, it actually resonates your point that folks are living longer and longer. Without divulging too much, this client is in their late 90s.
Yeah.
And they have literally outlived all of their friends, their local relatives, even their long distance relatives, nephews, and people that are supposed to be there for power of attorney and assistance. They're actually in their mid 80s and unable to travel. So it's a very tough predicament. And yeah, I do believe that, when my wife and I got in this industry and agreed to take care of our seniors, there were going to be some uncomfortable spots. But these are also the times that we do need to step up and find, our clients and our patients resources like yourself, or if it's a financial planner, or if it's someone with Medicaid or a local attorney, someone that can help them achieve their goals at whatever age they are. And if that goal is to, retire, or if that goal is to stay in their home until they pass away, or if they're okay with migrating to a, senior living community, great. But I also view it as our job not to only take care of them, but also help them with the path to where they want to go, because I am passionate about it. It's their last, I hate to use a football analogy, but it's their last quarter.
Yeah.
They should get to, pick the game, pick and how it's played, and write the rule book, and is my fun saying, make sure the last check bounces.
That's right. Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, we're going to go into another topic that you brought up on week 32. I still can't believe that it's 68 weeks. And also, just for a 30-second diversion, I did mention a few minutes ago that we do have our, my niece, my cousin, Bob Banner's oldest daughter, Kimberly Banner de Leon. And I do want to say to Kimberly, because this is what she does for a living. Kim, you are the angel of our family in so many ways. Mwah. Love you. You brought up the 40s. I had to give her the props.
Okay.
She also is a tremendous help in taking care of my 90-year-old aunt, my cousin Bob's mom, who is up there in a great facility in Cummings, Georgia. But, it was rough this last year. And the only person that could be with Aunt Helen was Kimberly. And she does that for so many other people, not just her grandmother. Like I said, your caregivers they're just special. It's just that simple. You brought up the 40-70 rule.
Yes, sir.
And I'd like you to, in those days we had like 18 and 20,000 viewers. That day that you did that was the first time we went above 25,000 or 30,000. People loved that topic. Now we're between 80 and 90,000, and I think there can't be a better time, especially post-COVID. Well, we're not post-COVID, but hopefully COVID getting close to being in the rearview mirror. Tell us that rule.
Well, I think it plays, and it is nice to talk about it again because I do think it's very applicable today, even in the COVID era. But it's very simple. It's what are the questions that your 40-year-old self should talk to your 70-year-old parents about? And that can also go in reverse order. What questions and topics should you be discussing as a 70-year-old parent with your 40-year-old son or daughter? Mm-hmm. And those topics, range from financial topics to death topics to senior living topics. Where do I want to live? To dating, to marriage, because they're in today's age, as you talked about, folks are living longer. Mm-hmm. Life is extended. So more and more, just because you might be 65 or 75 does not mean that you are ready to hang your hat up. You might still be traveling. You might still be doing things. So, but you do need to look at where you are and have the conversation of, as example, financial. If you do you have a power of attorney? Have a durable power of attorney, or is there another mechanism that needs to take place? Do you have your healthcare surrogacy? Do you have your will and testament set up? All of those things lined up and ready to go. Because and I always tell my story that I told you. The last thing you want to have is something occur with you, be it death or even just incapacity, and you have your family fighting over what they view you might want or you want. And a real world story, and I said this to the previous one, I have been involved with my wife and my company disputes with our caregivers, almost being the referee, because they in some cases have spent more time with the loved one than some of their sons and daughters, but they're arguing over what dress mom would want to be, buried in, mm-hmm. what music, things of that nature. So the 40-70 rule, in a very simple way, helps you ask all of those topics. It even has a workbook, but everything you'd want to know, at least as a good starting talk about, even driving, do that in there. As we get older, even driving topics. The things that you guys should be discussing with your 70-year-old parent, or vice versa, what you should be discussing with your 40-year-old son or daughter. So when you do retire or you do get older, these are all talked about. They're on the table. There's no innuendos. There's no misconceptions. Everything is there for everyone to see without any ambiguity, or hurt feelings. This is exactly, and it's my choice as an aging adult. These are the things that I want done.
Yeah, it's a staggering topic to me because in one form or another, every national financial planner that we have brought on this show, every
Correct.
certified financial planner, every national long-term care insurance expert, every Medicare expert may have used slightly different words than the 40/70 rule, but
Correct.
this conversation is so important, but there is that emotional barrier, to say to your 70-year-old parent. I mean, there was not a father and son closer than my father and myself ever in the planet. We didn't have that conversation between at the 40/70 rule. Unfortunately, and it was still okay. We had it when he was 81 and health was failing, very quickly. But I was lucky. He was coherent. He was sharp. And, we laughed and we did things, but I have many friends and many relatives that didn't get to do that. And you're right, there can be infighting, and sometimes that infighting is out of love, but it can be vicious. Didn't happen in my family, not good, but I've seen it, and it's not fun. It could rip a family apart.
Well, if you look at kind of the way family dynamics are today, families are spread out across the country. There's every kind of flavor of a family. So you have folks that are local, folks that are farther away, folks that have different phases of their life with children, not with children. So, I do put this as a top priority when we do talk to families, just simply to make sure that there is no, questions about what, a senior wants. I mean, I had to have the hard conversation a couple of weeks ago with a new family. Remember that they were coming home from the hospital, and Dad was adamant that that you had to, he wanted a DNR. Well, I had to go listen. There's rules around that, so you need to go down to the local ambulance and the paramedics. You have to get that lovely orange card on the refrigerator. Sorry, a little distraction in the background.
That's okay. Don't worry. Thank you.
The little orange placard for the paramedics to see. So there's a lot of little nuances when you are planning for the future of your life and your wishes. So there is a lot of little things that go into it that even the families didn't know about. So I'm a big advocate of having the conversation, the communication about all aspects of it, because you don't want to have any ambiguity or forget something or miss something.
Yeah.
A big one is, hey, your durable power of attorney. Make sure, and you've had this on your shows, you make sure you have, the last thing you want to do is go be incapacitated and not have someone able not only just make your health decisions for you, but pay your mortgage.
That's right.
Make sure your electric bill's paid. Make sure your household is still running. You might have an older, old-fashioned, I'll say, relationship where your wife doesn't have those responsibilities, and only the husband is on the checking account or things of that nature. Make sure you're aware of those things. And as a son that might recognize that, or a daughter that might recognize that in their parents, they should have that forward conversation about the financial matters, the living matters, living choices. Where do they want to live?
That's right.
All the financial aspects of things. Even if they are, have a single mom or dad, are they going to want to date again? Are they going to want to get back out there and do things? And then, of course, driving. And you both of us being here in Florida and Pinellas County, very congested. It's a big issue with driving and our seniors here in the state of Florida. So all of these things. And probably the biggest topic is just and I know it's morbid, but have the conversation with mom or dad or with your son or daughter about the end.
Yes.
What do I want? Because we've had a lot of clients over the years, again, with family. One family wants to hang on, another family member wants mom, not just let her go, or dad to go. So you need to make those choices to decide how you want. I mean, I guess I look at it as the seniors need to be empowered because, again, it's their fourth quarter. They should be the one that writes the last chapter in their own book, not someone else.
Well, and staying with that analogy, I mean, us, all of us, we need to do this in the beginning of the fourth quarter while we're still, know exactly what we want. I think 62-year-old Mike, probably is pretty sure what he wants at the end, but maybe 80-year-old Mike might not be that sure. But I would almost trust 62-year-old Mike to make that better decision. I've always been a little confused, quite frankly, at the do not resuscitate. Maybe you could explain this to me, because I'm one of those people that I do not want to be resuscitated if I'm going to come back and live on a machine as a vegetable. Excuse me. I in no way, no gray area, do not want that. That being said, I have known people whose heart has stopped. I've personally known people. They have resuscitated them, and they've gone on to live a great life for 20 years. Where's that line? Like, hey, guys, if you think you can bring me back good, keep pounding. And if you can't, let me go. Does a DNR actually have that language?
You have to. So there's, from our experience in home care, a lot of folks have a traditional DNR that you transport to a hospital, things of that nature, that might talk about life-saving, tests and interventions and things of that nature. Then there is the DNR that needs to be posted inside your home. Specifically look at county by county, but here in Pinellas County, it needs to be posted. They ask you to put it on their fridge. I at least tell our seniors, put it in a very, inconspicuous but easy to find, like inside of a cupboard that you don't use a lot. Because it is kind of, in my view, it is a little morbid to have this orange sheet of paper sitting on your refrigerator of, if I happen to have a heart attack, don't jump on my chest and make me breathe.
Yeah, we need milk. Don't forget the baseball game. Let me go if I die. Okay, fine. Check.
So it's a little bit morbid for my own tastes. But you have to have that, or the paramedics will start life-saving measures for you. So again, you have to look at it at what phase are you with. So for you or I, Mike, I'm 10 years behind you, so you got a little head start on me, but I'm still there. For me, I might have a DNR for a hospital that, if it's extenuating circumstances, no feeding tubes, no, long-term life support, absolutely. Yeah. But I probably wouldn't have a DNR for the home. Fast forward me maybe 40 years at 92.
Yeah.
You know what? If it's my time and God taps me on the shoulder, go ahead. I'm okay. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I actually have it in writing, and you're going to laugh, but I've been blessed with three incredible children, from their heart to their intelligence. And I've said to the three of them, look, if it ever gets to a point where I'm being kept alive by machine, and I put this in writing, the three of you are all smarter than I. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go on the internet and see if there is a cure forthcoming. 6 months, a year, anything like that. If that's coming, and you three make your opinion, make your decision, that one day I could be better, not only do I want you to keep the plug in, I will put money aside to hire a 24-hour guard just to make sure nobody accidentally kicks the plug out. But if, in fact, your research shows it's done, please unplug. Yeah, but there's always that, oh, damn, there's a cure, that you think of.
Yeah, and I think you bring levity into this conversation, and I try to bring levity. And I think, not to circle it back to the 47-year-old, but I do believe that you have to figure out whichever icebreaker. You and I can laugh about it with our kids, and mine. I'm in a totally different phase than you are. I'm 52 with a 3-year-old as our youngest. So mine is a much different dynamic than yours, but
you're a gutsier man than I.
Yeah, much busier.
Gutsier. Forget busier.
Gutsier. Okay.
Gutsier.
I'm actually going to take both gutsier and busier.
Yes.
Than you. So I just look at this and go, whatever you need, levity, seriousness, whatever the case may be, even in our brief conversation, you can see the importance of having that conversation.
Yeah.
And having it documented and having it, immortalized, even if it's just, thoughts and wishes that are out there for the loved one to have. I just encourage folks to go to the websites, go find the 40/70 rule, workbook, talk to your parents. There's a lot of questions in there. We just talked about the topics. There's 10, 15 questions per topic that you really should, talk to your, your loved ones about. Driving, that's a big one. End of life's a big one. Financials, well, they're all big. But they all are obviously, with you having the show that you have and the experts you've had on. Each one of these are multifaceted levels. Financial, I all the way from, like you said, living comfortably for 30 years. But what happens if you live to 35?
That's right.
Do you need to be on Medicaid? Do you need a plan? So all of those things, I think, are that multi-level deep that you've talked to. Planning, if you are early enough, can you still get a long-term care policy?
Right.
Can you do these things? And if anything, maybe you could help your 40-year-old son or daughter realize the things that they need to get in place for themselves, to plan for, like a long-term care policy. Invest in it. It's actually quite helpful for the clients that we do have. I can't believe that they thought about it one time canceling it. Now they're like, thank God.
That's right.
So it's definitely a great topic to have with both directions, be it 70 to your son or daughter, or your son or daughter to the aging adult with it.
We spoke, I think, one of the times you were here, and this isn't going to sound chauvinistic because it just is what it is. The car thing, especially for a man. I remember going through that with my father when I knew that his driving days were over. Mm-hmm. And I think intellectually, he knew it as well. And one day I said to him at dinner, still coherent, still a year away from his ultimate passing. I mean, more than coherent. I mean, walking around the house, watching TV. And I said, do you want me to put a for sale sign on the car? And he looked me straight in the eye and went, no. And he doesn't usually do things. I go, why? He said, I know it's probably over, but as long as that's there, maybe I'll make a comeback and be able to drive. And no. He said, you sell that car when I'm gone. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay. And I thought about that. That car, and I'm sure it's very similar for a woman. I'm not saying it isn't. But that car is, to everybody, that's your independence. That's something very special to give up.
Well, I'll challenge both of us, or anybody. Think back to when we were 15, 16, mm-hmm. and we got that car for the first time to drive by ourselves.
Yeah.
And just being able to not have to ask mom or dad to go to the store, go to a friend's house. Yeah. Go to, in my case, practice, and not have to wait for someone to come pick me up. Mm-hmm. But that freedom. So I would encourage anyone to respect that same level of freedom. Just fast forward it 60, 70 years to your aging parent, and you're taking away from that freedom of, I need to run and go get breakfast. I would like to go get coffee this morning. I want to go see my friends at the local diner and have my weekly breakfast with my buddies and my friends. Mm-hmm. Well, suddenly taking that car away is a huge impact to them, and eliminates an avenue for socialization that they had for 60 years, 70 years in some cases.
And that's a long time.
It is.
We've had so many people on the show, not only national experts like yourself, but heartfelt people like yourself as well. And, we're always trying to, what is this big barrier? Why don't people have this conversation? Why do less than 7% of the country have long-term care insurance when almost everybody's going to need it? And we always try and come up with these reasons, and it's always emotion. But sometimes I do think that until you are a caregiver, I was blessed to be a caregiver for my father, the last 18 months of his life. And it was very difficult. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. But until you actually go through that, I don't know if you can really get the emotion of it. I've told the story before, and even though my dad's been gone, oh my God, we're getting close to 16 years. It'll be in a couple of weeks. But the first time, that he had an accident in his bed. Mm-hmm. And he was still okay. He was still ambulatory, but he just didn't make it to the toilet. Mm-hmm. And we were cleaning it at about 3 a.m, and we were kind of laughing, because he lived with me. We had 2 master bedrooms, and we got all done, and he's nice and clean sheets room, and we're kind of laughing about it because we both have that sense of humor. But suddenly he got very serious, and he went, "This is not what you're supposed to be doing." Mm-hmm. And I went, "Well, yeah, it is, and it's not going to happen that often. And if it does, yeah, as your son, it is." And he went, "No, this is not the way an XPOW man goes out, with his son helping him change his sheets." Yep. And it is that and a couple of other things like that that made me see we needed caregivers, because Correct. He was more comfortable. I was fine doing whatever it took. He was more comfortable with me being his son than his caregiver. And I don't know if people can see that until it happens, till you're looking at a parent. And, I used to he was a big guy. I'm a big guy, but I used to put my hand under his shoulder until we had bars put in the bathroom so he could lift himself up off the toilet. Mm-hmm. It took a couple of times of him needing help, and he went, "Would you have the damn bars put in?" So I said, "Okay." But I'd lift him up, and I go, "See, I still got it." And we'd laugh, but I could look in his face and see he didn't want to yell, "Hey, Mike, I need help." And I wish there was a way we can convey, to the masses that your father or your mother probably want you to be a son or a daughter more than a caretaker. It's very hard.
I on a personal note, I have that conversation with any client, family, daughter that I get a chance to talk to, because while my brother and my grandmother had a very fantastic, even though it did affect my brother substantially health-wise, it took years off his life. Unfortunately, my mom and I had that hard role reversal. Mm-hmm. So my mom did not accept that role reversal. So she got angry at me for her aging, in essence. Yeah. And the bottom line is these conversations are hard. They're difficult conversations because, if you think about it, example, one of our clients you're helping me, she's a widower. From a different generation.
Yes.
Husband worked. Husband was in the military.
Greatest generation.
She supported him. Her job was to support her husband. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard for her, and it's a conversation that's tough for someone to go, well, you may not be able to live in the home that you and your husband occupied for 30, 40 years, much longer. And it's why? Well, money. It's mm-hmm. You've outlived what your life has, your husband and yourself laid out for you to do that. But you can't say it's a difficult conversation that to have. So all of these are just, even with your father, there was levity there, but it was still a difficult conversation to have with your dad that many years ago about, helping him with a little bit of infrequent incontinence, or when it got worse, about other additional helps in the bathroom. But again, these are the things that you also go with the 40-70 rule, because you also find your comfort lane. You have to find your own boundaries with your mom and dad, or even yourselves. Where am I going to be uncomfortable? Where am I going to need help? Where do I need to plan for these things? As an example, if you cannot afford or will be able to afford a caregiver or someone to stay in a home for a period of time, but you also know that your sons or daughters are not going to be able or unwilling to do those things, then you're going to need to make sure you put yourself in a position to have extra help. Maybe that means you need to move to a community, senior living community. Or maybe you have the wherewithal to stay at home and hire someone like ourselves to help and assist where we can drive you, where we can help with personal care, where we can do those other things that your family, not that they can't, but maybe you don't want them to.
Right.
And I use the saying, our job is to be the bad guy. Your job is to be the son or daughter.
That's right.
So when you come over, the only thing every once in a while we ask is to reinforce helping us, but other than that, you are there to be to meet with your mom, your dad, go have lunch, go have fun, do everything. We're the ones that have to tell them it's time to take a bath. We're the ones that are going to be the bad guys. You just be the son or daughter and come visit with mom, talk to mom, talk to dad, spend the time. Don't worry about the rest. We'll take care of it.
Yeah.
But good.
No, you're so right about that. I was just lucky enough to have a dad that was blunt enough with me to go, okay, you've done it a few times. I know you're willing, but in no uncertain terms, with a couple of F-bombs, go get help. I don't want you doing this.
Correct.
Like this.
Correct.
We had somebody on the show quite a few months ago, and we were a long-term care person, expert, obviously, but just also an unbelievable, warm-hearted individual. And I'm not mentioning his name only because I can't think of his last name. But he had said to me, Michael, you don't sell long-term care insurance. Like I've said so many times, you don't sell reverse mortgages. If it meets a need and makes their quality of life better, it's the proper thing to do. I interview loan officers on a fairly constant basis that say to me, oh, Mike, are you kidding me? I can sell reverse mortgages all day to see. I don't want you to sell them. If they don't need it, it's a blessing, actually, if they don't need it. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing. But this person said on air, and he said, Michael, I hate to tell you this, but if you're ever, and I'm not an insurance person, he said, there are many times when I'm with somebody going, please, you're in your 50s. Long-term care insurance is so inexpensive at this age. Get it now, and
Correct.
You'll be the best. And they come back and they go, look, I have 3 daughters. There are no better 3 caretakers in the world. Blah, 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 blah. That's who I want taking care of me. And he said that he learned this by accident, but once he learned it, he's been using it for 20 years. And he said, well, then you're blessed. If you're one of those rare individuals that doesn't mind your daughter giving you a bath, then you're right. You don't need long-term care insurance.
Correct.
And he goes, literally 9 out of 10 people just go, what? Well, if you're that masculine and that's the relationship you have, and they're going to be able to sit you up in the bathtub in your 70s and wipe your behind, if that's the kind of relationship you have with your daughters, you certainly are blessed. And they go, where do I sign? Take out the policy. No one look. They think it's bringing them some juice or making
Correct.
their eggs or driving them to the doctors. And that's not what your people, well, it is what your people do.
It is.
But it's so much more.
Yeah, people forget about the personal care parts. They forget about the not the literal, but they forget about the dirty parts of aging.
Yes.
The unpleasant parts of aging.
Yeah.
And realistic, I don't. I mean, being a dad now it's and looking back, it's simply a role reversal. It's just not to be funny, but bigger diapers.
Yeah.
With it. But I just encourage people, and I just not to get a plug for it, but if people are interested out there, we might as well put it out there. But it's a pretty simple email or a web address to go to. It's just caregiverstress.com. It's just caregiverstress.com, and you can look up multiple things beyond the 40/70 rule. There's other things out there that other kind of guidelines that might meet your family dynamics, but you can go on to caregiverstress.com, look up the 40/70 rule, be able to download the workbook that's there that has all the topics that we've been talking about, and then probably 10 questions for each topic that you can start working on with your son or daughter, or your mom or dad, and start building at least a plan for the future. So when things do, because they will, aging is inevitable.
Yeah.
We can't stop it. We haven't figured that one out yet.
No, I don't think we are in the near future.
Well, I mean, we might slow it down.
Yeah.
We might extend it a little bit, but inevitability, we're not built to be around forever.
And that's a blessing too.
Yes. Yeah. Amen. Because there's joints on my body that already are starting to squeak and that whine at 52.
Wait till you get to 62. I'm actually going to try and, when I have time, push a law through Congress. I don't know why they build houses with the toilet and then there's a mirror in front of it. I think once you get past a certain age, it should be against the law for there to be a mirror near the toilet. You don't want to see this.
Yeah.
This is not something you want to start your day with.
Me personally think that over the time that, and that's a whole nother topic, but just the home, modifications for our seniors that we should be doing and thinking about as well. But those are, again, that's another topic under living, situations. If you're going to stay at home, is your home safe? Are you able to stay in your home?
Yep.
Or is your home, old 19, not old, but older? Maybe it can't be widened. Maybe it can't be handicap accessible.
That's right.
So you might have, a hand that's dealt to you that's much easier to deal with sooner than later.
Yes.
With it. So again, it might be a hard conversation, but it's a needed conversation because there's even these small things. Well, bathroom. Well, no one wants to think about a bathroom, but when you try to get yourself a caregiver in a wheelchair in a bathroom, and it's the old 1960s bathroom where the sink and the toilet and the shower are within 18 inches of each other.
Yep.
It's really hard to get your mom or dad in there with maybe a walker and a caregiver in there to assist them without some, serious potentials, a lot of risk of injury for the caregiver and or the client.
When we remodeled Dad's bathroom, which again was before caregivers, and took out the tub and put in a step-in shower with a bench and put the things near the sink and the toilet, I mean, he literally sat down at dinner when that was done and went, life's easier because of that bathroom, kiddo. He called me kiddo to the very last minute. These are things, and I'm so glad you brought up that there's not just topics, but there's 10 subtopics.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just, Dad, when do you want to get rid of the car? It's at what point do you start driving with someone? At what point do you stop driving at night? At what point do you stop driving? Maybe it is safe to go to the corner, to the diner at your age, but it may not be safe to drive to Georgia or to the other coast to see your brother. Each one of these topics is again, say one more time the website to go to.
The easiest one to go to is just caregiverstress.com.
Okay.
And then you can easily, there's a lot of topics on there. 4070 rule is in there. You can easily find it. Download the workbook. It's like 47 pages, 47 pages long. So it's not like a little baby flyer.
Right.
I implored people. I used to, print it and give it to folks, and people were shocked at how big. I mean, it's not small. It's not like a little questionnaire. It's 47 pages. And if you think about all of those topics, you're easily getting 3 or 4 pages per topic, if not more, and different subjects, questions, points of view. And in today's age, you have to go wide and deep, because you're right.
Yes.
Can Uber, can you still make it safely to the local diner? Is your car, a big car, can we downsize you to a smaller car that you might be able to handle better, feel better in? Do you need a care? All of those things that need to be talked about to make, so we don't get the phone call that said, hey, mom or dad was in an accident.
There you go. There's our website.
Oh, thank you.
No, this is, and I've mentioned it before. You've already been not only a tremendous help to this show, an asset to this show and people, but you were a tremendous help to my family a little more than a year ago in the hospital when we needed you. People like you are special. We are so happy that you're part of the 62 Who Knew family. Thank you for doing this. Do you have practice after this?
Yes.
How many kids are in the house right now?
We have in the house right now,
now.
living with us today, 9.
Right now?
9.
Okay, we got 1 minute and 56 seconds. Call them. Bring them in. Hurry up. Call them, bring them in. Yeah, get them. Go get them. Get them as many as you can. To all my 80,000 viewers, you want to see a house filled with love? Get ready, baby. This is the fun of doing this like now. Doing things like this.
That's right. They're all on the playground.
Oh, they're all on the playground. Okay. Yeah. Well, we're going to do that one day. We're going to bring them all on. Maybe we'll bring them all to the studio and then go out to dinner.
There you go.
But we also were going to bring your wife on. We've been threatening that for 100 shows. We also are going to talk to a couple of your caregivers and get some of them on. Let's do that in the next 4 to 8 weeks. I'm
fine. We got all the above is an option. We love to. It's the more experience we can put out there for caregivers and the caregiver stories, I think they deserve. They deserve everything and anything they can hear about how they live their lives and how they do their business. I think it's a fantastic thing. I think they should all be wearing red capes, but that's just me. I really do. They should walk into a house like a police officer, like a fireman, like the ambulance people. They're superheroes. They're real, like our people in the military, real life superheroes. That's an incredible thing. As always, I'm so glad it was you being here on our 100th show. I really was. And we're going to get the kids on camera soon. Okay? And enjoy baseball later. And thank you as always. We'll talk soon. To my audience with 10 seconds left, one more time, thank you to Stephen Sless for being our host last week. It's not going to be the last time. He's going to do it again. He's going to be my Jay Leno. Thank you, everybody, and do good this week for somebody. Bye-bye.